Welcome to the Branch Demon Podcast, where we talk all about Uroplatus phantasticus, the Satanic Leaf-tailed Gecko. My name is Bill Strand, and with Yvette Strand, we are Misty Mountain Phants. Today, we're going to be talking about community, because those of us who work with Phants, we actually do have a community, and communities have to get their start somewhere. And one critical start for the foundation of a community is someone who has a website that has up-to-date husbandry information and consistent availability of that species. Right now, it's Misty Mountain Phants, but the one who started it was Lawrence Erickson with Geckota.com. And so we're bringing Lawrence on to discuss those early days of starting the Phant community. And if you like hearing about Uroplatus phantasticus, the Branch Demon Podcast is a weekly podcast that you can find on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Every week, we go over another aspect of the Satanic Leaf-tailed Gecko. But now, please join me in welcoming Lawrence Erickson to the Branch Demon Podcast. Hello, Lawrence. It's very good to see you again.
Hey, Bill. Yes, it's been ages. I'm very happy to be here and very happy to see Yvette as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, actually, you guys are the friends. I'm the one who just came in.
Everybody's friends with Bill.
Everybody's friends. You've both been here before. We've been associated for many, many years.
Yeah, almost 10. Wow.
For the Phants, and then indirectly through CIN before that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's way back before.
That was back in the 90s.
Community.
Wow.
Yes. No.
Okay, you guys are just old timers.
That's right. Well, today we are going to be talking about the Phant community. And Lawrence, you were there as it coalesced from the amino acid soup. Let's just start with when did you start with Phants? How did that start?
Well, I got my first pair of Phants back in 2004, or not. Well, let me backtrack. I got my first trio of Phants back in 2004. By the next day, they were a pair of Phants, which was typical of back then.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was wild caught and came in, but before that, I was working with other animals, other reptiles, and it all kind of evolved from snakes into chameleons, and then geckos, and it was a multi-species breeder for a long time, but never very good at it. And then eventually it was I focused in on geckos, and it started working well. And then after that, after a few years, pretty much just decided to stick with one species. And I'd worked with some other Uroplatus prior to that, the Peachman Eye and Gunther Eye and Sakura. Even took a little stab at the Fimbriatus, but most of them that I were able to breed, I couldn't keep the hatchlings alive.
Okay.
And it was when I started with the Phants that things started coming together. And I have to say that probably a lot of the success with Phants was probably learning from the failures of some of the other species, which is kind of sad. I'd rather learn from my successes than the failures, but I think that was probably a little of it, at least back then.
Well, this is what I'd like to talk about. I'd like to get a sense for the history of this community, and you were there at the beginning. Give us an idea of what kind of challenges you and the other breeders had in those early years.
Oh, there was a lot of things. I mean, caging was one thing. I mean, we used to make our own cages and I know you were part of that as well. And then eventually, when I first started getting into the Phants is when the Exoterra cages came out. And that really made a big difference. And so I'd never really kept any Phants in anything other than that, but I kept other Uroplatus in homemade cages, and that was always a struggle. And then there was the lighting as well.
Wow.
There was very few lights available, and most of them were the big giant 1-inch bulbs, and they were
Wow.
T12s.
I feel so
the
lucky.
T12s.
Yeah.
And then we got to the T8s, and then eventually the T5s. But the other ones, they just weren't very good. And then the light fixtures themselves were also really poor. You'd buy a shop light at the hardware store and then make or manufacture a hood to go with it. And that's what we were doing. And then the misting systems were a hand mister or something you could come up with based on what you could pick up at a gardening supply store. And then eventually that got a lot better. And I ended up using the Mist King for most of the time that I kept the Phants, and that really made a big difference because of the hydration. But I'd say between all of the caging was a huge factor. The caging and the lighting, and even getting food items was a problem. Crickets, went through different phases with crickets. There was a cricket virus or something like that at one point in time, and then all we could get was these black crickets from somewhere in the, I don't remember where it was, not Guatemala, but Jamaican black.
Oh, the Jamaican crickets.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And they were evil beasts.
Yes, they were.
They
bit,
bite.
and the Phants wouldn't eat them because they tried, but they'd get bitten back. And like I had one Phant lose an eye from being bitten by a cricket.
Yikes.
And there were other things. The crickets were just vicious, and so that was a real struggle, or fairly early on. And then finding a supply of the regular gray crickets was a really big factor. And then also the supplementation. There was a lot of improvement in supplementation. I mean, people were working on, you'd like for calcium, you'd take a cuttlefish bone,
Yes.
and you'd
Right.
scrape it to get the calcium, and that was where you got your calcium. And then the other stuff, I mean, there was some early things with the Rapashi, and we used that were designed for, or not Rapashi, it was Sticky Tongue Farms that were designed for chameleons, and that's what we used because that was what was available. And then that really progressed over time. And since I've been out of the chameleons, not chameleons, but since I've been out of the Phants for 3 years now, I really haven't looked at what's out there, but I know that there were some huge improvements towards the end.
At what point, time-wise, do you think that we in the Phant community got out of just sporadic breedings here and there for people that had multiple species and got to the point where, I believe you were the first one I know of that focused primarily on Phantasticus. Is that accurate?
I believe that's accurate. I mean, there were a lot of people working with them, but they were, as far as I know, either multi-species breeder like I had been originally, or importers. And there were quite a few importers for a while, and that's all you could get for many, many years. And their importers were all challenged because most of the animals either came in dead or sick, and some of them hydrated up and managed to save the animals, and I'm sure others didn't. But they were dirt cheap because they didn't live very long.
Okay.
And as far as my success, it came, I think a lot of it had to do with, I got some captive bred that somebody had incidentally hatched out, and I was able to breed those with some of the captive bred that I had got from the Wildcats, and then those ones, they were different animals altogether. With the captive bred, the F1s, and then I was a little concerned later on with the multi-generational breeding because that can have problems if you get inbreeding. And then eventually I worked that out by getting a program that could calculate the inbreeding potential, and took a lot of diligence to keep that from going. from occurring. Early on, I was doing it by hand, and it was nearly impossible. And you had to have a lot of geckos to keep that from happening.
And what was the time? What was the year approximately that you said, I'm going to focus on Phantasticus? And when did you go public with a website?
Okay, I think the website was like 2013 or 14,
Okay.
but I'm not certain. It was somewhere around 2012 that I started getting pretty consistent with breeding them. So I may have had the website a little bit earlier. So it was probably 2012 that I got the website, but I don't recall specifically. But that made a big difference, and with that, I was able to. Well, I had a lot of photographs for diagrams on how to build the cages, or not the cages themselves, but how to plant how you put together a planted cage and lighting and the misting systems and that sort of thing, because I was getting a lot of questions on how you put together a cage and how you house them. And I used the old from the Vivarium magazine, what they call the naturalistic vivarium, and put those together, and then bioactive became a thing. And I had kind of a cross dressing variety of that. I mean, it wasn't entirely bioactive, but it was naturalistic, and I tried to keep it the bacteria and the little leaf hoppers and the natural insects that come in with the leaves. I tried to keep them going, and I think that helped. I was never able to keep cages for years and years without changing them out, and then occasionally I had a water system flood and everything had to get changed out. We all had to go through that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, as far as like availability, it was probably 2012, 2013 where I started becoming fairly consistent with them, and at that time, it was easy to find buyers. I mean, there weren't very many people producing them. There were a few, but I think again most of them were more the multi-species breeders.
Right.
Now, when you make the jump from being a breeder and then you make the jump to having a website, which is, I mean, if anybody is being a breeder, you know that is a jump, because all of a sudden that becomes a commitment. You're putting yourself out there saying, I'm going to help you and I'm going to supply these for you. That's a jump in commitment. And so, Lawrence, what was your thinking or your inspiration for making that jump and commitment?
Okay, well, part of that was a picture's worth 1,000 words. So you could have a pictured a whole series of photographs on how you construct cages, or how I constructed cages. But it wasn't necessarily the right way, but it was the way that I was doing it and being successful with.
Yeah.
And so that helped a lot with fielding a lot of the questions. It also simplified things with selling the excess animals that I had. Versus doing it on one of the earlier forums. Early on, we communicated through forums. Geckos Unlimited was one of the primary ones, in kingsnake.com. And oddly enough, I hadn't looked at either of those for many, many years. And I looked this morning, and both of them are still up, but it looks like they're just not very active.
Yeah, Kingsnake just got a new buyer who is working to refresh it.
Okay, well, good. And I saw that they still have the archival forum pages, so that's nice. At least it's memorialized for those who want to dig back.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the community. How have you observed the community growing from when you started? How has it coalesced to the point where we have an active Uroplatus community?
It came from, it started with just a few people having success, and then communicating primarily through the forums, and then eventually it got into Facebook. And I really haven't done much of anything with Facebook. I'm sure it's quite active now, but I haven't looked there for 4 years, probably, maybe longer than that.
I know we'd get really excited when Lawrence posted his availability.
Yeah, that was
I must
one way
say.
that was a lot of fun doing that. And
That
then
was.
they had to get had to make sure I was home because of all the phone calls and the
Right.
messages that were going to be coming. Yeah.
No.
I think it's probably a little, or I understand it's a little bit different now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, email, Instagram, all those kind of fun
Right.
stuff.
Whatever platform you're on, you're going to get contacted. Yeah. And if you have a website, through the email, and wherever you put your footprint.
Yeah, and there certainly weren't the different platforms when I was keeping them and breeding them. And it was, I suppose, towards the end, but I didn't have the tech savvy or really the inclination to go to all the different forums, not forums, but formats that are available. It and eventually, after I got out of it, I really realized how much work it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it started off as a labor of love, and it was great. I had a lot of fun doing it. But I'm also happy now that I was able to at least leave my mark and move on. Yeah.
Well, share a little bit of that insight for people thinking, hey, I want to be a breeder. What does that take?
Um, it takes a lot of time and commitment. And what I didn't realize is how much time that it was taking.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all in small increments. Do 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there throughout the course of a day, maybe an hour. And then going on the website and answering questions. And then between cleaning cages and cleaning crickets and ordering crickets and um, answering questions and cleaning cages, it was ending up just an enormous amount of time. And then also very costly as well. And then there's also the plants. And then you also do, I mean, you dive into the plants and go, oh, that's a cool plant. And so you want to know more about that. And you try and experiment with different plants. And that's also a part of the fun of it.
Oh yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
And, but when it goes from being fun to becoming a business, then the joy came out of it. So if I was ever to do it again, it would be just to have a Phant in a nice cage that I could look at night. And early on, one of the things that really struck me is I had this night vision camera thing, and you could look at the Phants at night without, you'd come into the room and watch them through this night vision camera doing their thing. And it was just amazing. You just sit there and watch them jumping around, doing their natural thing. And I had them in larger cages, and it was really cool. And that was early. That was before I was really breeding them. And then that was one of the things also that I enjoyed immensely early on that I lost contact with when I started breeding them. So just having one available to see and enjoy and then to watch, that's another thing that that I missed once I started breeding them and having lots of different cages. I didn't just sit back and go in the room and watch them because it was work. I mean, there was always cool things that I'd see, like maybe a female rolling some eggs, and that's always special. Or the breeding or discovering new things as you're as you're uh, as you're watching them or learning them. I mean, as you're keeping them. And I'm sure a lot of the information's out there, but one of the things that I discovered was if I came into the room in the morning and saw a female Phant on the ground, I could probably go in there later that day and find the eggs that she laid the night before. And it was something that was I didn't know about until I just experienced it, seeing it happen. And then as far as like the frequency of how often they can have eggs, and how the moms hang over the eggs for a day or so, and then they go up, and that's just observing them. But I kind of lost a lot of the observation enjoyment when I was keeping them and selling them as a business.
Yeah, you lose that time. You lose that time, and
Yes, I
yeah.
talk. I'm talking a lot on this podcast about breeder care and keeper care,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and the conditions of the difference if you want to be a breeder or versus a keeper. There's some sacrifices when you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would also use larger cages now,
Mm-hmm.
for space wise. I mean, space wise, I had the 12 by 12 by 18 Exoterra cages, and that worked, but it was like a commercial thing. I would use the much larger cages now if I was doing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one behind Yvette,
Oh, which one right
Yeah,
here?
this one right here.
Yeah.
That's the one for my girl.
Oh yeah.
one
One.
One.
Phant. Wow,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I bet you, I look at there and I see there's a couple of branches that look like basking branches. I bet you from time to time you see her basking on those.
Oh yeah. There's
Oh yeah.
branches up top. There's branches hidden. There's branches all over, so
Mm-hmm.
she can jump around all over the place.
She can do what she
And
wants.
Yeah.
in a feeding station where she can dive down on the animals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can tell it's intentionally placed like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well
He's
done.
spoiling my little night fury.
I know. Mhm.
Now, how did you two meet in the community? I love this story.
I have my version, so I don't know what Lawrence's version is. The first one is I was at the reptile show at Cal Palace, and I knew I needed a bunch of cages or enclosures, and I had, oh my goodness, I think I had at least 12 and more to take out on a dolly, or what you call a hand cart, and I was waiting in line for something, and I bumped into you, and you said, "Hey, what are those for?" And I said, "Oh, they're for Phantasticus." And I think I mentioned something about also using dragon strand enclosures. And you're like, "Oh, are you Bill's wife?" And
That's
I'm
pretty darn
Lawrence.
close.
And something like that. And then you handed me a cool Phantasticus bag, a bag with the Phantasticus printed on. Here, this is for you. And you just gave it to me, and I still have it. I should have
Okay.
went and drug it out and got it. And then when I got home, because again, I wanted to get some, more Phants and, captive. I knew I'd have to get either wild caught or whatever, because you have to go on the forums. You have to search everywhere online, and then that could be a dead end. And then I, put it in online and sent you a message that I wanted this particular pair. And you're like, "Hey, I just met you at the reptile show." And that was you. And I had no idea, because I forgot your name, because sometimes we do that. We meet
We
somebody,
do that.
and you were the one. You were he. That was my
That's
memory
pretty
of our
close.
meeting.
I remember you were
Something like
struggling with
that.
a
I'm
bunch of those
sure,
cages, and I don't
details.
know if you were talking with somebody about Phants or whether I asked you, but either way, we put it together pretty quick. And I had those I had those bags made up to give to anybody who bought a pair of Phants, just as something, as a
Oh,
gift. And it was also kind of an advertising thing because I had the website name on there.
right.
And I still use them for the grocery bags today.
Oh, me too.
And so I had and then at the reptile show, I had a bag to carry my stuff in, and I think an extra one to give away if somebody popped up. And well, you popped up and it worked.
Oh
It
yeah.
worked.
That was
Yeah.
so cool though. I was like, wow, I met the man.
Yeah, and on my side, this is a bit of a lifestyle change because I was not there because I was on for
Business
work.
trip.
I was over in Europe doing product marketing and
Mhm.
stuff, and this is my wife, who was always supportive, but now she had gone into Phantasticus for herself, and now she's going to reptile shows without me.
Yeah,
I
that's
wasn't going
quite
to
a
let
change, isn't it?
him not go and keeping me from going because I needed more enclosures or to be prepared, you know. So I was very
She's
excited.
on her own. She's doing her own thing and getting stuff. And I come home and there's all these cages sitting there. What's going on?
Well, you, Bill, were one of the first people to successfully breed Phants as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Those were
that was
some
a long
fun
time ago.
surprises.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was like you, Neil Meister up in Canada. He worked with a lot of different species. I don't know if he still does or not, but and then he had imported some from Canada. It was easy to get CITES permits from Canada to the United States, but not vice versa. So he was able to bring some down, some captive bred
That's
animals.
really cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember way back then. That was the community was much smaller back then.
Mm-hmm. And there was the Andrew and Gilpin. They had been breeding, but they were breeding. They were also breeding other geckos. They specialized in geckos, I believe, and they had some, but I don't know if they're still breeding them or not. But there was just a few recognizable people back then.
So, what were some of the memorable times back in your Phant breed? Or actually, maybe we should first say, uh, how did your let's see, how am I going to say it? You are no longer breeding Phants. You're no longer involved. Why did you close that down?
When or why?
Oh, why?
Oh, I got out of it after my wife passed away, and it was it. I was realizing that I needed to make some changes, and so I sold off the collection, all the cages, and all the animals, and decided to go and see some in the wild
I
and
see some of
focus
those
in.
adventures.
Yes, to go see those in the wild and then other herps as well, because I'd always been interested in the field herping as well.
Oh yeah,
And you two have been on herp survey with me in the past.
so
Yeah.
much fun.
Um, so I focused in on that. So I put my energy into seeing Phants and other Uroplatus and other animals in the wild. And although today I've only seen 4 wild Phants. They're not easy to find. I know you've gone and looked for them.
Yeah.
And it's taken 2 trips to Madagascar to see just 2 wild Phants, at least for me. And they're exceedingly difficult to find. And I've seen some of the other Uroplatus, and it's really amazing to see them in the wild. And to what's really exciting is when you're with somebody who's never seen one before, and then they see one for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just so they just can't talk. It's like they just stop and their eyes bulge open when they finally realize that this piece of moss 12 inches from their face is not a piece of moss. It's a living animal looking at them.
Yeah.
And it's just unreal. It's absolutely, it's amazing. I mean, keeping them in cages, you can sit there for a few minutes and look it's very difficult to find them. But seeing them in the wild is just insanely.
That's special.
Yeah, and it's difficult. It's easy. It's easier when you have a cage and you're looking for the Phant in the cage. When you're walking through the forest and you've got to figure out which one of these dead leaves is actually a gecko. Oh boy,
Yeah,
challenge.
yeah. Oh, I've spent so much time like looking at that's a likely tree, and then following each branch up and looking at each leaf, and looking and then just following the branches up, and then nothing, and just repeating that process and still nothing. And then a guide will come along and find one. Although even the experienced guides have a lot of difficulty.
Oh yeah.
This year, you have the ones you found. You found a lot more. It seemed just a few
Every year, I'm able to find around 3.
Okay.
And well, okay, I don't find them. I am the recipient of a guide finding them,
Yes.
and I've gotten better. When it started off, it was the guide saying, "There it is." I said, "Where?" "There it is." "Where?" And his finger gets closer and closer and closer and closer until he's almost touching it, and I'm going, "Huh?" And
Yeah.
finally,
And
I
you know what to look like too. You had the search image.
yeah. But
I'm like smiling ear to ear because
that was my first trip. The subsequent trips, my eyes have figured out what to look for, and now I can. It's not as embarrassing.
Yes.
You can point and I say, "Oh, okay, I see it."
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Between those and like the Sakura.
Sakura are just
oh my goodness.
otherworldly when you see them sleeping on the tree trunk. It's like, where does the lizard stop and the tree begin?
That's not a
Yeah.
knot in the tree.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah. One of the probably most wonderful lifelong experiences with the Uroplatus is finding a Sakura myself stuck to a
nice.
tree. Yeah.
Nice.
But it took a long time.
I find one or two each trip, and I have yet to be the one to find it, and that would be such an incredible thing. Dare I hope that one day I will be finding a Phant. We'll
Yes.
see.
We've got to go back together sometime.
Well, I'm going. My last time is going to be January of 2027.
For a while, right?
Ah.
So
Yeah.
he says.
I'm not making any commitments. I'm just saying for the foreseeable future, I've got one more chance before I take a break.
Well, good luck.
I know.
We'll see what happens in January.
Yep.
Well, what are some of the most memorable times during your Phant breeding experiences?
Well, I mentioned early on about watching them through the night vision glasses or
Mhm.
camera, and that was just, it was awe-inspiring, and it made you just appreciate the animals in another way. Other things would be the first time I saw the female rolling her eggs, and just watching that happen. And you could watch it takes a long time for her to complete the process, and I never watched the whole process, but seeing that was one of the certainly a highlight. And then the new discoveries, and then well, opening the incubator every day
I
was like
know.
Christmas. First thing in the morning, I'd go to the incubator, take a breath, and have a look at all the different deli cups. And sometimes Christmas arrived, other times it didn't. But it was always fun. And I always kept them separate, or the eggs in their own deli cup, for accounting for the lineage.
Right.
Yeah. And that's actually something that I felt was really important. Is I saw a lot of people breeding various geckos and doing the line breeding, and it wasn't just geckos but other animals. And I was concerned about the inbreeding line. I mentioned that briefly, but I was very adamant about avoiding line breeding, and then everybody who got a gecko got the pedigree with the animal.
Mhm.
And now people really did appreciate that. And I don't know now whether or not people are line breeding for color and pattern or that sort of thing, but I suspect
Mhm.
that's probably the case if they are becoming readily available.
Uh, there have been people who have talked about it, but I don't think I don't know of any of the regular breeders of doing that. I know we are absolutely not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We are working on bloodline diversity, and there's still a lot.
Some come with the spots and lichen color and the vein marks. Some, but you know what? You're going to get something different. It's not going to be what everybody else has there.
Yeah, well, that's another beauty, is you just don't know what you're going to see.
And I love them all. I
Mm-hmm.
love the smooth, the solid, the bicolor, you name it.
And what is so cool about we have very diverse bloodlines, and we, by design, we intend to have very diverse bloodlines. It just means that the babies can come out with the lichen, the veining, and who knows what they're going to come out with. So it's a surprise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes if you pair them up trying to get that end result, it doesn't happen.
you never know. Yeah.
No.
And are you still able to get some wild caught ones in?
Yes, I have
Okay.
been. I haven't gotten any in a bit, but I still have quite a bit that I'm will be working on in the future. So they're still just hanging out, being
Mm-hmm.
chill, So I am got enough to keep me busy for a while.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's got. I'm glad that you're able to get some because you're able to um, add that blood
Oh
line,
yeah.
that diversity to your bloodlines,
Hmm.
because that was one of the things that I had a really difficult time with, is maintaining the blood diversity.
Hmm.
And I brought some wild caught ones in, um, and it's just it's a factor that you have to accept.
Right.
But I would definitely not recommend that to somebody just getting started,
Oh,
and never
absolutely.
have, because that was like I said, the biggest failure is you could get them and they'd look perfectly fine. The next day they were dead, and we didn't know why.
Hmm.
Uh, and I
We've
think
had
there's
some of those painful experiences as well, and we
yeah.
are seasoned keepers, so yeah.
No, well, there's a lot of stress and probably a lot of dehydration that occurs during the process, and kidney failure, and then just stress in and of itself. All of a sudden, they're in the wild where they never see anybody except maybe a occasional person walking down the trail, and they don't, if that, and then they have people peering in at them in their cages all the time from 6 inches away.
Right.
Uh, so there's stress,
Right.
and we used to also measure um, success on breeding, but I
Hmm.
think there's um, something to be said about success with longevity,
Hmm.
and keeping them healthy for years and years. And that was not something that was really addressed early on.
Hmm.
And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was just over 12 years was the longest I had a Phant. So I felt really good about that.
Yeah.
And then and quite a few of them lasted over 10 years. Um, and then certainly breeding the females, it takes a lot out of the females too, so you're going to have a shorter lifespan. But
Right.
I definitely had some go over 12, over 10, a lot go over 10, and then a couple of them go over 12 years old. I
That
think
is
that was pretty
amazing.
successful.
I have some reach in that, Lawrence. Reach in
Okay.
there. Oh yeah.
Mm.
Was there anything about those early pioneering years we should remember as we as a community go forward?
Oh, that's a really good question. Um, be grateful that captive bred are available,
Hmm.
and that there are people um, that are dedicated to the animals, and that we're definitely a lot more fortunate than we were. People are a lot more fortunate now in the availability of the information and the equipment to breed the animals. And by equipment, it's everything from the cages, like the cages that you produce, to the lighting and the podcasts, like the Chameleon Academy, and there's other podcasts that are out there. I'm not necessarily sure that of other ones that are dealing with Phants. I've seen Yvette's, and congratulations, those are quite good. Um, I'd like to see more of them. Well, one thing I would like to add is uh, for information that I found extremely useful is when I was listening to the Chameleon Academy podcasts, uh, utilizing the information that I learned from that on the arboreal, on the chameleons, in incorporating that in with keeping the Phants. Uh, we talk about humidity pockets and larger caging, and having the ability for the animal to select the portion of the cage that they want to inhabit at the time. And it's something I hadn't really thought about as far as um, all the different areas of the cage that needed. I knew about setting up a feeding station and a place for them to move in and out from the UV light, but I hadn't thought about the things like the humidity pockets and then having different various different areas within the cage that they could go to and on a regular basis. And so that's also something that you really can't get with the smaller cages. I struggled with it, and I think it also plays back into, if I was ever to do it again, I would use a larger cage and follow those directions. The other thing you can learn from the podcast, or I learned it from the podcast, is all the different things about the vitamins and the supplementation. There was a lot. You had some really good experts on vitamin supplementation, and there were a lot of different things that work. And realistically, these animals are found in the same places. You find chameleons within a few feet of the fence, and so they're living in the same locations. It may not be the exact same species that you're keeping in your cages, but there's a lot of similarities between whether it's a paraneck chameleon or whether it's a Jackson's chameleon with the habitat requirements. Mm-hmm. So I would strongly recommend that people go to the archival podcasts and listen to those. It's enjoyable too.
I gotta say, Lawrence, you've been an inspiration with the website and all the information, just invaluable. And you just are call the maverick. Oops, I'm like knocking things over. Yeah, that was such a good thing you did for the community and everybody, even me personally, because a lot of information wasn't found out there, and you put yourself out there, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. It's nice to hear.
All right. Well, Lawrence, I think we're going to let you go off to exploring the world.
And more herping.
Yes, there's more herping in store.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you very much for coming by and talking with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I had a good time. It's great chatting with you both again.
Yeah.
And let's not let it go so long next time.
I agree.